All right, good afternoon. I know it's at least 12:01, maybe it's 12:02 by now. My name is Cheryl Ehrman. I'm the Dean of the Charles W. Davidson College of Engineering, for those of you who I haven't met yet. And I want to thank everybody for coming today. Today it's my pleasure to have Andrea Schwartz, Bay Area Director of Braven, to our last Silicon Valley Leaders Symposium of spring 2019. I can't believe how fast this semester's gone, and I can only imagine how it feels for all the students in the audience. Where did it go? I'm excited about Braven because two San Jose State faculty members were part of the founding group. Andrea herself joined Braven as a founding member in 2013 to launch the organization's pilot program with college students. This pilot grew into Braven's core program, and as a senior leader on the team since then, Andrea has helped to build the organization's vision, strategy, and operations. She now leads the Bay Area region, overseeing partnerships, programs, and development. Her career started as a high school teacher, a catalytic experience that inspired her lifelong commitment to serving students and families in under-resourced communities. Later, as a managing director of recruitment at Teach for America, she led a team to recruit and select teachers from 50,000 applicant pool annually. There's a lot of applicants for that program. Every day at Braven, she can draw on both her deep belief in the potential of young people and her teaching and learning expertise, as well as her well-versed understanding of the hiring bar for college graduates. Andrea received a BA in Communications and Business from the University of Southern California. She loves being back home in the Bay Area, where she enjoys hiking in the humidity-free sunshine and spending quality time with her family and lifelong friends. Again, please help me welcome Andrea Schwartz, Bay Area Director of Braven.
Thank you. Hi. Hello, I'm really excited to be here. It's a day of humidity-free sunshine for sure. My house does not have air conditioning, and so we've been melting the past couple of days. So I'm really excited to be here. We have a few other guests who will be coming up and joining me in about 20 minutes to introduce themselves as well. As you guys heard in my introduction, if you looked at my LinkedIn profile, these would be like the big kind of logos on that profile. So I graduated from USC. A number of years ago, I decided to go on from there to get involved with an organization named Teach for America, first as a teacher, and then actually managing the hiring of a large swath of college graduates. And then I took that experience and helped to found the organization Braven, which is now a partner of San Jose State. It's interesting though, because what we're going to talk about today is what's behind the logos on a LinkedIn profile. And I think it's really important that you guys understand that it's not always a very clear linear path to the steps on someone's resume or LinkedIn profile. And the core piece I think that's incredibly important behind this is this stat on the screen. So unfortunately, only about 30% of employees in this country are fully engaged at work, meaning they love their job, they love their company, their fellow employees, they feel excited and valued, and they actually want to talk about how awesome their company is or their organization is to others. And I don't think it has to be this way. I actually think all of us, if we put in the time to self-reflect, can find a job that allows us to feel fully engaged and bring our best selves to work every day. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. The way that we describe this at Braven is actually through the hustle. So you got to find your hustle. And this is the combination of your head and your heart. So your head is obviously what you're good at. So what's the knowledge that you bring to the table? What are your skills? What are your strengths? What are your talents? Your heart is what you care about, what gets you up out of bed every single morning. What are you passionate about? What motivates you? And when you do the reflection to figure out those two things, you can find that job you can be fully engaged at. You can find that hustle. And if you actually took a second to understand more of my own background, you'd understand that hustle statement. So I'm actually going to share what's behind these logos now. I was a first-generation college graduate. I was the first person in my family to go to a four-year institution and to finish. And I didn't know a ton about college, about the workforce. But I decided to major in communication and business because I thought that would help me get a great job. And in that time, I actually heard about this company, Deloitte. It was a consulting company. I heard it was a good place to work. I didn't know a ton about it, but I worked really hard, went through the interview process, and I landed a consulting offer with Deloitte. So I planned on doing that after I graduated. I got that this summer after my junior year. But I don't know, something just didn't feel right. in my gut about it. And I did a lot of reflection my senior year, junior and senior year. And I actually reflected on some pivotal parts of my own identity. First, I was, as I mentioned, a first-generation college graduate. My parents actually both grew up on farms in Kentucky. My dad was the son of dry cleaners. He lived in the apartment above his family's dry cleaning business. My mom literally grew up on a farm where she had pet goats and grew cattle that they sold to Japan for meat, very different upbringing than the one I had here in the Bay Area. My parents worked incredibly hard to actually get themselves to a point where they could afford for me to go to college. And when I got to college, I really was very shell-shocked by the experience. USC is a great school. It's also a school where there's a lot of people of privilege. And I had my beat up Honda Civic from 1992, and a lot of my friends were driving very fancy cars that I didn't even recognize the logo. And I realized in that moment of showing up on that campus freshman year, how important education was going to be to my own economic journey. And as a first-generation graduate, I looked at a lot of my cousins who were still living in Kentucky, many of whom were working at the Yoplait factory, putting lids on yogurts. And that was going to be their job for the next 30 years. And I recognized how lucky I was to be in the place that I was. And so the power of education, I realized was part of my heart that I wanted to pay forward and live out my next step in my career. The next thing was I got really involved in student government randomly. My friends were all doing it, so at first I was sure, I'll get involved in a committee, and that led to me actually running for student body vice president, which I don't know what student government's like here at USC. It was a very big deal. It was cutthroat. The campaigns were they were smear campaigns. The whole campus got super engaged, and I learned a lot about myself from that experience. We actually ended up, my running mate and I, Gary Lee, love him, we ended up losing. There were over 8,000 students who voted in the election. We lost by 62 votes. It was very hard. But through that experience, I actually learned that I love being out and about, meeting other people. I loved the experience of actually being in front of rooms like this, pitching ourselves and why we'd be great leaders for the university. I got a lot of energy from that. And it made me think oh, maybe I need a job where I'm actively communicating with others. The last thing that was really important to my college experience outside of my classes was I got to take this class called The Art and Adventure of Leadership. And it was taught by the president of the university at the time. His name was Stephen Sample. And then Warren Bennis, who was kind of a leadership guru. He had advised all these college presidents. And the class was incredible. And it was the first time that I was oh, I am a leader. I got accepted into this class, and they're telling me every day that I'm a leader. So sure, I guess I am. And I felt confident for the first time in what I had to offer. We also had to create, do a project in that class that allowed us to, what's the right word? Exercise our leadership. And so my group and I actually built a nonprofit where we were partnering with local high schools to tutor them and help them prepare for college. So it was also a moment where I was feeling that piece of my heart, my passion for education come to life, and I really loved that. So, senior year came, and I had a really big decision that I want to go work for Deloitte, which is a great company with a great job to be really secure, but I probably would be sitting at my computer making PowerPoint decks for 95% of my day, which is not bad. I just realized maybe that's not exactly the best way for me to live out my hustle. And so I ended up actually applying for and joining Teach for America. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I had never been there. It was a very, I was this, bright-eyed woman from California who was dropped in North Carolina. And I taught high school sophomores, juniors, and seniors English. It was incredibly challenging. I taught 8 classes over 300 students over the 2 years I was a teacher. But it was the most important work that I could have ever been doing. I still think teaching is, regardless of your level, pre-K to college, is the hardest and most important work there is, period. And it was actually through this experience that I really refined my hustle as it is today. So I realized I have a lot of skills, I have a lot to offer. And the 3 biggest ones at the time for me is realized I was a really great planner. I could make a great lesson plan, unit plan. I could figure out how to teach British literature, AP literature, or world literature to students who might not necessarily care about reading Canterbury Tales, but really knew they needed to have the great critical thinking and writing skills from that experience. I also refined my communication skills. It is not easy to get up in front of a room of 30 students who are 2 to 3 years younger than you and compel them to care about, again, British literature or world literature or whatever it is. And it was hard at first. It was not awesome every day, but it actually really helped me build my public speaking and communication skills. And then lastly, I realized I loved building from scratch, like innovating. Like the school district gave me this curriculum, and I was like, cool, no thanks. I'm gonna make my own. And it was really fun to like create. I also realized I do have a huge passion for education, for equity. I became really deeply committed to this idea that everyone deserves a quality education, regardless of their zip code or the neighborhood they grew up in or the city they live in. And I became really passionate about the importance of diverse workplaces. I was a white woman from California who was dropped in a school that was majority African American, and I had to recognize that there was like going to be a difference there. And I had to actually work to build a culturally competent classroom where my students could see me as an ally and an advocate, even though we didn't share the same racial background. And it empowered me to realize like all workforces should actually make sure that they have a wide range of diversity, because we're better when we actually get to work in diverse and inclusive teams. So all of this is to say, I found my hustle, which we put in a statement form at Braven. So my hustle is actually using my innovative spirit to ensure educational equity and workforce diversity. And that's essentially what our organization's mission is today. So hopefully that's a nice overview of my own background. I'm obviously not an engineer, so I want to make sure you guys got to hear about the hustles of engineers like yourself. And so I'm actually going to invite 4 SJSU students and alums up to the stage to share a little bit about their own educational journeys, professional journeys, and where they are now. So why don't you, the 4 of you, come on up? And if you haven't yet, just make sure your microphone's on. Awesome. And you might recognize some of their faces, hopefully, and we'll have an opportunity in a few minutes for you guys to ask questions too, so make sure you're thinking about questions that could be applicable to your own professional and leadership journey. So first, I'd love each of you to actually take a moment and use your elevator pitch to introduce yourself. So we all know that means like sharing our background, where we're from, educational background, and then professional path. Do you want to start, Salvador?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Salvador Rodriguez. I grew up in East Palo Alto, California. I'm a senior studying computer engineering, and last summer I was an intern at Intel in firmware, and this summer I will be an intern at a small semiconductor testing facility in San Jose called Teradyne as a software engineer.
My name is Sanjana Shetty. I'm a senior in software engineering. I'll be graduating this May. I grew up in Cupertino, California, which is like 15 minutes from San Jose. Over summer, and my current job was working as a web developer for the Women in Engineering organization. So if you attended the Women in Engineering conference this March, then I was the one that built the website for them.
So good.
Alrighty, can everybody hear me? Just making sure. Okay, should have done a mic test. Hi, so my name is Irvin Guerra. I graduated from here, San Jose State, with an electrical engineering major with a minor in business. I'm currently in sales. I interned with a couple companies throughout my collegiate career as an engineer, and then I dove straight into sales. Born and raised in Fresno, California, for those of y'all that don't know, little small country town in the heart of the Central Valley. So as you guys can tell, my slang kind of comes out sometimes, but I try to hide it. And that's me.
Hi, my name is Tui Tran. I graduated last spring, and I majored in biomedical engineering. The hometown I grew up in was Dublin, California, and currently I'm working as a manufacturing engineer at Abbott.
Awesome. I loved hearing your intros, thank you. And the Women in Engineer Conference website was awesome. Great job.
Thank you.
As was the event. I don't know if you all were there. It was very fun. I got to be there. So I'd love to actually start by just asking you guys generally, like, what have you learned about yourselves through your own professional journey? And you can go in whatever order you'd like.
What have I learned about myself? Okay, so I guess I can start out with the story. So right after I graduated, I was like, scrambling for a job because I didn't want to go and live at home. There's nothing wrong with my home. My mom like makes great Vietnamese food. But I knew I wanted to live on my own, so I was looking for small jobs. I worked first at a flower shop. After 2 weeks, I got fired. And my boss told me that I wasn't enthusiastic about the job, which was true. And that experience really taught me that, you know, I had to really do what I was passionate about, like do the work that I was passionate about, and like work towards that rather than just like, you know, staying in a position where I wasn't truly passionate. And then after, I worked in at a car dealership, and it was a lot more fun because there was like a lot of technical things to learn about. And then after that, I was fortunate to get an interview at Abbott. I was like constantly applying while I was, you know, working a smaller job. And then now here I am today. So I guess that's my most important lesson, was doing what I was really passionate about.
I would definitely agree with the passion. I feel like it's often undermined, the importance of following what you're passionate about. When I first came up to the Bay, the reason I actually started with engineering was because as a kid, my mother and I would clean the houses of engineers that would come from San Jose and had weekend homes in Fresno. And I was like, man, I'm trying to be like one of them, you know? Like, I'm not trying to be in this position all my life. So after high school, I took off and went into engineering and developed a technical side. But my junior year, or I think it was like my fourth year, I was working at an engineering company and had pretty much getting funneled into a nice role. And I would say a month before I left the company, I was like, you know what, this is cool. I love the technical side, but I kind of want to do something a little more, you know, charismatic, a little more, you know, over there and talking to people and not just sitting there programming and developing. So I took the deep dive and followed my passion and ended up in sales. Ultimately, my next goal is to start my own company. But it's because of the fact that I didn't want to stick myself where, I guess, what seemed nice. I ended up following my passion, and this is where I am today, and I'm happy, very, very happy.
So I thought I was going to do like software engineering, and I still want to. I enjoy coding and everything, but I definitely do agree with Irvin, because I feel like for me, I'm good, like one thing I realize I'm good at is like taking technical stuff and like simplifying it down and talking about it to like people who are not technical. And like from that I learned it because like I would help classmates out if they didn't understand something, or it's like I would talk to someone else who's not my major and like they would understand it because I would be like, oh, like, do you have any idea what I'm saying? And they'd be like, yeah, no, I get it. I was like, oh, okay, that's good. And like, I don't know, I guess like as a new grad, I just don't really want to focus on like the core engineering skills, because I feel like there's enough resources out there that you can constantly learn. So I kind of, like I have some offers for software engineering, but I kind of am thinking about going more towards like sales or solutions engineering, just following my passion, because I kind of feel like as a new grad, I still have time to learn a lot of new skills and stuff. So I kind of want to build up my business and sales skills more, and while also retaining those core engineering skills as well. So I would really recommend like trying out new things. Like that's what I realized, like, you know, try everything once, and then if you don't like it, at least you know you don't like something. Like it's a good way to like figure out what you want really out of your life.
Yeah, for me, I'm still trying to figure out what my passion and my purpose is, but I guess one thing that I've taken away is not being afraid of any opportunity, or I feel like I can tend to be my greatest enemy, or, you know, fear or doubt prevents me from applying to a software engineering job or getting involved. So I've always wanted to do mobile app development, but I've never really gone into that. But this semester I took through a nonprofit, you know, saying goodbye to all the fears. I was like, you know, I'm going to take a mobile app development class, and it's not graded, but there is an instructor and everything, and I'm just trying to figure out where exactly I should end up. You know, right now it's mobile app development. Maybe I do an internship in it and I hate it, and you know. So not being afraid, because the only way you can learn is to fail and to figure out whether it's a good fit for you.
Well, it sounds like you guys have all learned a lot about yourself. It sounds like you got some great feedback from a manager in a job that didn't work out. What are some other ways that you guys have learned these lessons outside of trying new internships or getting feedback from a manager?
Well, definitely, I think feedback from coworkers is very essential. Like I've learned a lot of things through my position right now. So currently, as a manufacturing engineer, part of my job is to work on site in a clean room, and we have operators and technicians who are very they understand the product the most, and they understand how it works, what the problems are, and just listening to them. An essential lesson I learned was to really listen to others, even if they may be in a lower position than you. They probably know more than you do because they have the experience. Just because you have an education doesn't mean that it replaces experience. So I think that's something I've learned from something other than a manager.
It's funny because I had something set up in my head and then just went away. As you guys can tell, I think that the biggest thing I've learned was, outside of just following your passion and whatnot, it's simply understanding market trends and really diving into what's in front of you. For example, so sales is completely changing. In about 5 years, it's going to be completely different from the way it's been for the past 30 years. And there's this common misconception of the sleazy car salesman still doing it in tech. But the introduction of the internet and the introduction of accessibility to gather information has completely changed the way we do sales. The modern salesman is going to be a lot more technical and taking the role of a consultant over just simply closing deals. And that's huge. And that means that not only do you have to be very communicative as a salesperson, but you also have to have this strong technical knowledge behind it to understand and to build credibility on a sales cycle. So I firmly predict that in the future, the engineer, or I guess the engineer that can communicate, will be the rock star salesperson because of this very reason. I mean, think about it. When you look something on Yelp, you're like, hey, let me research a restaurant, let me pick top 5, and then bam, I'll call them all up and then choose the next phase. You don't have restaurants calling you, and then if they cold call you, you usually just say hell no, why am I going to answer this call, right? So it's something to keep in mind, and especially if you're looking to take that dive. In 5 years from now, we're going to be talking about this and saying, hey, this is the new salesperson. So, and this comes with really taking the initiative to research the different markets and ultimately figuring out what's right and what's wrong for me. And I think I finally found my little niche, and I'm learning as I go.
I would say class projects and being an officer in clubs and stuff like that. Definitely helped me learn a lot about myself. Also, I attended a lot of the events that the College of Engineering had, where it was talking to other engineers, conferences, networking events, things like that, where it's I learned more about the industry and different parts of it. So it was a good way to help me figure out oh, is this really what I want to do? Am I interested in doing this? Does his job or her job sound really interesting for me to put my time and effort into it? Because I feel you should also be thinking about your time as a resource. You don't want to waste your time doing something you don't really care about, because you might as well do something that you're good at and that you like, because I feel that's the thing that you're most qualified to do. Because you won't just give this 50% mediocre thing. You're gonna go fully into it, So I feel for me it was definitely exploring a lot of in clubs, class projects, feedback from friends, coworkers, and attending a lot of events and figuring out really what I like and what I wanted to do, and a lot of self-reflection also.
For me, I think finding someone like a mentor who I can rely on. For me personally, I've had a mentor since high school who I've stayed in contact with, and anytime I need advice or help, I always know I can hit him up, and he'll give me the straightforward answer, and he won't beat around the bush. He's not necessarily in the field that I want to go down, but he's someone I look up to and someone who has a lot of characteristics and qualities that I admire. So I'd probably suggest that, finding someone who you look up to.
That's awesome. If Before I open it for questions, so hopefully everyone in the room has at least one to ask, how would you guys describe your hustle at this point in your careers?
I guess I'll take it away. I think my hustle is my persistence, like to solve a problem. So, even throughout college and even now, it drives me crazy if I don't solve a problem. Like, I have to figure out the solution. So that's been really great at work because, we're kind of on a time crunch and things have to move fast. So figuring out a feasible solution that, works for the time being, and maybe, the hope is for a long-term solution is what excites me. So and having persistence to continue solving the problem, even though things may get hard, is what my hustle is.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so my hustle is my passion for trailblazing a path for those with similar backgrounds as mine. Being Latino, you don't see, outside of Latinos, you don't see too many minorities right now in tech. And I feel like growing up, there was always this misconception behind what was possible and what wasn't possible. And my goal is to trailblaze that path and at least to say, hey, if I can do it, you can definitely do it too. And this goes outside of race. This goes for any race. I think there's this huge, significant difference between, I guess, there's a huge disconnect between the knowledge that's out there and what people truly know. And my goal is to trailblaze that path to connect the two.
I would say my hustle is my persistence and leadership skills to get things done. I don't like leaving something not really incomplete and not fully finished. I like to get things done on time, really good quality, and just being really persistent, not really getting bogged down by rejection, because I just use that as a tool to learn from, because it's okay, it's not what someone else wanted, so I got to figure out what they wanted to get to where I want to go. So.
Like I mentioned earlier, I'm still trying to find my passion, but I feel like zooming in a little bit, I'm a first generation student, so I feel like right now my biggest hustle is using my resilience to, get through college and ultimately find what that passion is.
Cool. Any questions so far from the audience for one or all of these awesome students and grads in front of you? And when you have one, you can just raise your hand and say your name and either direct it to everyone or a specific panelist. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Matt. I have a question for Urban. I was just curious, I heard you mention that you wanted to start a business. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, so I don't want to say too much. I think we all start with the dream of being the next Google and whatnot, but essentially it would be a business that can, I put this in words without expressing too much. Okay. It would be a business that essentially helps you as a person, regardless of race, ethnicity, whatever, find the service that you need at the lowest price with the biggest ease of use. So my challenge and the challenge for the team is to create a platform that essentially a 6-year-old can find any sort of service, any sort of price, real time, with the location in front of them. So that way, whether you're looking for a dentist appointment, whether you're looking for a programming class, you can find it either a free version or a version that that you can pay for. And essentially I don't know if I'm saying too much. And that essentially will bring in a full cycle of income for the company as well. So it's a mix of helping others to find whatever they need while also being a sustainable company as well. So, yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I don't think it was previously discussed in the presentation so far, but how did you guys learn about or come into Braven?
Yeah, so for me, I had a previous mentor who worked at the Boys and Girls Club back in East Palo Alto. And she actually knew Andrea, and I think the first year she actually told me about it. It was during the summer, right? The first year?
Yeah.
and I couldn't do the commitment for their first cohort. But the second year, I didn't even realize it was the same program. And through just online resources on campus and being involved with, I don't know if you guys heard of Aspire, but it's a first generation. It's kind of just to help students stay in school and provide advisors and whatnot. Mentioned it, and I had applied through there, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of the second cohort.
So I found out about Braven through a friend. So she was going to the class like on the first day, and I had no idea what she was talking about. And she was like, "Oh, you should just come with me." So I came, and then I met Andrea, and then Leslie, who was there at that time too. And that's kind of how I found out about Braven, was through my friend. And they were like, "Yeah, if you're interested, apply." So I applied.
Yeah, so funny story. Edgardo, he was on the team before. He sent an email to me, and he sent it to my SJSU email when I actually had a Gmail account. And it was like 5 months later that I responded. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, let me just hit him up real quick, see if he's still willing to take me on. And then we hopped on a call, like literally about 5 minutes after he received my email. And yeah, that was the beginning.
I was walking on the second floor of the engineering building. They were having one of their events, and I walked by, and Leslie was on a booth, like smiling. She used to work at Braven. And then I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And then I just got the information, and I looked on their website, and they had like worked with companies like Google and like Instagram and LinkedIn, and I was like, "Wow, this is so cool." So I participated, and yeah, it's a wonderful program. It really helped me in my professional development. So, highly recommend.
Those are so fun. I didn't know those stories, so it's really cool to hear. I was like, I remember sending that email to all those people. That's awesome. Any other questions?
We're pretty open.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it.
Right. So since most of you guys work in the professional field, what would you recommend for all the students here to have in terms of hard skills and soft skills to be able to succeed in professional world?
I love that question.
Okay, this is like the plan that has worked for me. So you know how in school you have like a specific input and then you have a specific output from that input. Like real life doesn't work like that. You can throw all your resumes to every single company, and you can push your hardest, but maybe you don't get the output that you want to achieve. I would say first stay persistent. So, eventually, statistically, right? Speaking, eventually something will come. And when that comes, you have to be ready with your hard skills and your soft skills. So when I'm saying hard technical skills, the minimum requirements for the job, which is maybe a bachelor's degree. And then I think what will set you apart is if you have experience on your, because everyone right now in this day and age has a degree, but if you have some sort of work experience, that will stand out. Or if you don't currently have a job or can't have a job right now, have a project to put on your resume. And when you're speaking about your project or your work experience, make sure you define your role. So specifically say, I was the group leader, I did this, I did that. I think as engineers, we tend to sway away from standing up for ourselves because we want to work in the background, making sure things are right, just to make it look easy. But I think really saying, I did this, I achieved these goals, what Erwin was saying, communicating your skill set is, so communicating your skill set is the soft skill, and then the hard skill is having that technical background. Even if it wasn't strong, personally in my interview, they never asked me about my resume, my GPA. They just asked me what I did in my projects and how I achieved the goals, and they want to see how you're thinking too.
So this is gonna sound a little bit outside of the stereotypical, get good grades and everything. Honestly, be humble and take initiative for the things that you want. Be humble with yourself, be humble with your outreach. Don't be afraid to really stick your nose in the things that you do not know. And once you ask for that job, once you ask for that new project, if they say no, ask them, okay, how could I come back? And then for you to say yes. What do I need to build? And then little by little, you start maneuvering and really gauging what you need to learn to get to where you want to be. I feel like there's this misconception right now in colleges that you essentially get this degree, bam, get whatever credit or whatever GPA, go in the workforce, and someone's going to give me a job. Hell no, not here. To be honest with you, right? And it's important to be humble with yourself, to build yourself as a person. I mean, to be honest with you, the times that you spend partying and times you do things that aren't going to build you is the same time that someone else is really developing their craft to get that job that you're going to be applying for alongside them. So it's important to be humble with yourself, to accept what you can offer, who you are as a person. Be humble with the person that you're going to be applying for, because at the end of the day, you're going to go down on their payroll, and if you're not worth the pay grade, you're not going to be there for too long. And ultimately take an initiative to become a better person, personally and professionally.
I would say you should be able to effectively communicate the projects and the technical skills that you have, because interviewing is a skill set in its own way. So you might have all these qualifications and you might be this perfect, the perfect candidate for this job, but if you can't communicate the things that you have effectively where they can understand that you're passionate, that you're interested, that you have these skills, they're probably going to pick another person who doesn't meet every requirement but can communicate that more effectively. So it's figuring out how to communicate and also interview and sell, in a way kind of sell yourself as the best candidate, in my opinion. And also networking. I would really encourage networking, because it's easier to get into companies if you have a referral, because there's a lot of competition and a lot of people apply to jobs all over the world to get into Google, Cisco, wherever, and you're just gonna get stuck in that database. So with a referral, it kind of is a way to go directly to the hiring manager's hands. So they have your resume and they can see it, and next steps from there. And if you have a referral, they're more likely to contact you because you know somebody from the company and you have someone advocating, saying that, yes, this person is competent and can do the work.
I think one thing that is often overlooked is being authentic and being yourself, especially as engineers, because you think all you need is the hard skills. But these soft skills are very important, because at the end of the day, the manager and the team that will be hiring you, they'll be working with you every day, and they want to be working with someone that they get along with, someone that's not just a robot, they're just typing out code or whatever. And I think one of my first internships, the first time I talked to the manager, I met him at a networking event, and he asked me what my GPA was, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not the prettiest. And he's like, get your GPA up and we'll talk later. And then a couple months come by and we meet up for coffee. And this time, I show him a lot of the projects I've been working on, and I didn't have to make that initiative to talk to him again. He already kind of sent me away. I could have felt bad and just ignored any message or just not took the initiative to talk to him anymore. But after that conversation, I just was like, oh, my winter break is a month long. If you guys need an extra hand during the winter break, I'd love to just come in and learn. And I wasn't looking for a paid internship. I just kind of wanted to get something on my resume. Instead of spending my winter break home, sleeping all day or whatever, I was like, you know what, let me just spend some time working for free. He ended up offering me a quality assurance internship over my winter break. And I think that was partly because I was showing him I'm improving, and I really want this for myself. And finding those kind of relationships with managers or networking, and finding ways to have them see that they want to invest in you and they want you at their company, kind of thing.
Awesome, that's a great story. Good job, Salvador. All right, let's give one last question in the back.
Basically, generally speaking, did you encounter any setbacks in the industry, and how would you overcome them as a group or as an individual person?
Well, I think in engineering in particular, things don't happen without a team. If there were setbacks in my career, or like, I guess like walls or something, I would say, because you are gonna see that, you know, particularly in engineering, you're gonna like have like an older group and then like a few younger people. And, you know, usually like the majority is older, so they tend to want to stay in like, you know, what they know is like, you know, the correct path or what is feasible to them. But, you know, like as new fresh college students, you may like be thinking, oh, there may be a better way or there may be a new way. So to like get things moving, like I would say develop a team, like get like stakeholders that would like help in like, you know, making the decision whether that would be the right path, and then you can start the journey, like, you know, they can help like getting buy-in from, you know, the upper management to, you know, start that initiative that you want to start. So just, I guess like working with a team is the most essential tool you can have.
I think the biggest thing that, I guess speaking in tech sales specifically, things change so fast. It's ridiculous, you know. It's like the moment you produce one thing, then you have the competing company that produced something even better, and you're sitting there like, what just happened, you know? And it's a huge reminder, though, that if you don't develop yourself as well, you'll be left behind, you know. And I think that's something that's important, especially in tech. That hey, you know, you might have that nice little position, you might have that nice little comfortable, you know, I guess, project going on, but if you don't keep growing as a person, either technical or personal, you're gonna be left behind in the dust. And you see that a lot in sales. So that's my biggest, I guess, problem. Not problem, but challenge.
So I don't really have a job. Like my stuff has like all been internships, so like I can't really speak too much about like industry setbacks. Give me a year maybe.
Once she decides whichever offer she'll take, she'll be back here talking about some challenges she
But
faced.
I can say this, like definitely projects and stuff like that, like when you're working with people and like even when you're interning and things like that, there are setbacks sometimes with like the team and things like that. I would just say like figure out what's causing that setback and figure out how to fix it. So instead of like freaking out, like fine, freak out like for a couple of minutes, but like move on from that, like, you know what I mean? So like figure out what's causing it and like how you can fix it. And like, you know, you could do it, you know, like talk to people, like have like a discussion and like figure out like what are the next steps? Like how can we make it better? Like what worked, what didn't work? Stuff.
Yeah, I haven't had any industry setbacks experiences, but I mean, just in college alone, you know, sometimes if you're not doing well in a class or something like that, I think the biggest thing to do is just to face the challenge head on and not retreat from it. And like I've said, you know, my GPA isn't the prettiest, so I failed a class on campus before, but luckily with grade forgiveness, you know, finding options and ways to get around that problem and move forward. If it's, you know, when there's a will, there's a way.
Awesome. Well, let's all give our panelists a huge round of applause. Thank you for. And I think there's one thing, just when we think about this soft skill of communication and networking, if you guys have a LinkedIn profile, which I hope all of you do, if not, I can be helpful in you guys making one. Look them up and connect with them. Maybe you'll want to work at Intel one day or all the other awesome companies up here. So definitely do that. And then I'm going to actually wrap up by just talking for about 5 minutes through Braven and the opportunities ahead of you with that organization. So again, big round of applause to you four. You speak with wisdom after a few short years in the professional world. Thank you, guys. So I hope, and this is just the beginning, I don't expect you guys to walk out of here and say, yes, like I know exactly what my hustle is and exactly what I want to do. I think this is like a lifelong process. I'm constantly reevaluating what my hustle is. Like, what are my skills? Do I feel like I'm in a position that's actually allowing me to use my skills meaningfully? Am I finding joy in my work, et cetera? So this is like a statement that you'll be revisiting constantly throughout your career. I hope today, though, encourages you to take some time to think about, like, what are you really good at? What do you really love? And how do you combine that so that you're one of the 30% of people, and hopefully more over time, who are fully engaged at work? And one resource for you as you go on this leadership and professional journey is the Braven experience. So as these students talked about, they all joined Braven their freshman, sophomore, maybe junior year. And it was an opportunity for them to have a dedicated semester to focus on their own leadership and professional development. So I'm just going to talk really briefly about what Braven is and give you the website so you can pop on and learn more and see if it's something you want to be a part of as well. So this is our mission statement. As I mentioned, part of my hustle is actually ensuring that all young people have access to great education and that the workforces are as diverse as possible, because I really believe on the whole, for business reasons and just for like moral reasons, we need to really be prioritizing building diverse and inclusive workplaces. And so we as an organization partner with awesome universities like San Jose State to ensure that our next generation of leaders will emerge from everywhere. And there's this really interesting equation. It's basically, I'm summing up a lot of the insights that these four already gave you, so I'm not giving you a lot of new news, unfortunately. But there's essentially this equation. When you think about graduating here, landing with a strong first job that will pay you well, but also align with your hustle, there's four key pieces of that, or ingredients in that equation. And the first one is incredibly important. As Salvador alluded to, 85% of jobs are secured through networking, which is a large number, right? So that means either you found out about the opportunity through someone else, or someone else actually referred you in, like passed along your resume, which will just move you among the thousands that might have applied cold online. That's not to say you shouldn't apply to opportunities cold online. Like sometimes it does work out, but we just really recognize the importance of actually communicating who you are. In small events like informational interviews, it sounds like the coffee experience that Salvador had, or at large networking events like we getting out there and like telling others who you are and what value you can bring. Number two are the skills. The hard and soft skills question was awesome. We've actually done a ton of research. So we went out and we interviewed a bunch of companies, some tech companies, consulting firms, nonprofits, government companies, healthcare companies, et cetera. And regardless of the industry, they all said that these are the 5 professional competencies that are most important in terms of getting a job there, but also succeeding over time. So these are like, in your world, the soft skills. I like to call them power skills, because soft just sounds kind of lame. Yes, you guys all are exceptional mechanical engineers or biomedical engineers or software engineers, and that's really important, and you'll have a lot of job opportunities because of your technical or hard skills. Without these power skills, your career may be limited, right? Your ability to not just be a great engineer, but an engineering manager could be stifled. And so the ability to work well in teams, actually manage a project or manage teams of people to execute really well, communicate, whether it's your value to others during an interview or actually like solving interpersonal conflict on a team, et cetera, are incredibly important. Thirdly is experiences. There's been a lot of internal data that we've done at Braven in terms of understanding how many internships a student needs to secure a strong job, and then there's a bunch of external data that supports this. This is not true in every single situation. Obviously, you can have one awesome internship and that turn into a great job, but on average, we're seeing it's recommending young people have 3 either internships or research experiences, even a study abroad experience or a volunteer experience, something that's meaningful that you can talk about what you learned and the impact you made. And so part of Braven is actually figuring out, like, what is my long-term goal career-wise, and what are the experiences I can get along the way to actually build my resume and show that I'm of value. Lastly, it's just the confidence, the like leadership mindsets. Like, I belong here. They are lucky to have me here. I can provide value, and that I can actually learn and solve problems along the way. All 4 of these young people talked about, like, they've had to hustle and they've had to persevere through a lot to get where they are. And companies want people who bring that type of spirit to their organization. And so this is the equation. There's a few other things like the technical skills you guys are learning, which is incredibly, incredibly important. But on top of that, these 4, I believe, and the research tells us, need to be in place for you to be successful after graduation. And so the course actually, the semester-long course that Braven in partnership with SJSU runs here on campus actually equips you through 3 like units with those skills. So first, you design your career. You think a lot about your strengths, your passions, you write your hustle statement, and you actually figure out where you want to go long term. Then you like hustle to that. So you get all the things in place you know you need. You do practice interviews, informational interviews, you make your LinkedIn profile and you learn how to maximize LinkedIn. You make sure that resume is awesome. You attend networking events and really get in a place where you are submitting that application to the research opportunity or internship of your dreams. Bless you. Lastly, there's a capstone challenge. It's actually a design thinking challenge that's sponsored by a local company. And so you work with a team to prototype and present a solution to that challenge. And it's set up in a way where you're actually like on a stage like this, pitching your idea to representatives from that company. And that alone is a resume or experience that you can put on your resume. So it helps you build that experience capital we were just talking about, even within the 15 weeks of the course. The class is not taught in a space like this, just to be super clear. So every week when you join Braven, you meet with your small team of about 6 students, either here on campus or at a local company, with a leadership coach. And the leadership coach is a local professional from a variety of backgrounds who come every week to facilitate your in-person session. It's super hands-on, it's a small group learning, experiential learning, and you get to know this leadership coach really well. And hopefully that coach who is referring you in to job opportunities that in their network or connecting you to people in their network. So it's kind of like a built-in social capital element as well. So if you want to learn more about Braven, there's a video on the website that we'll quickly play at the end of this if you want to stick around. I'll just say that we are seeing students who go through the Braven experience securing strong jobs after college, which is clearly the reason why we're doing this work, so we're really excited to see. And if you want to get involved, you can enroll in UNVS 75 or UNVS 101 in the fall. It's offered on Tuesday and Wednesday evening, so you pick whether you want to take the class on Tuesday night or Wednesday night. We put you guys in teams with folks across campus. So there's engineers, there's also students from the College of Science and Business and Social Science. And then you also want to go ahead and create your Braven profile. Even if you're not ready to commit to enrolling, like I understand maybe you guys don't have room in your schedules this fall, totally get that. Just sign up at bebraven.org/register, and that'll at least let us know that you're like a little bit interested in learning more, and we can send you some more resources. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll just make a quick plug. We have a June 1st deadline to register online at that website, bebraven.org/register. And if you register by then, you have the opportunity to be considered to take the course at a local company. So some of these are on the East Coast, but these are all companies that actually host Braven Fellows on their campus for those sessions, which is pretty cool. Like you can go to Instagram every week and hang out in their conference rooms and eat their snacks and hang out with their employees. The experience is also really great if you take it on campus here as well. It's just an added perk. So I'm happy to answer any questions about Braven. If not, I'll put the video on and just thank you guys so much for coming out. I hope you took something away from today. Any questions? Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we were founded in officially 2014. That's when we were incorporated as a nonprofit. And our partnership with San Jose State started in 2015. So relatively recently, but we actually, as Dean Armin said at the beginning, we founded Braven alongside faculty here, including a faculty member from the College of Engineering. So SJSU has been really critical. We've since launched in Newark, New Jersey, Chicago, Illinois, and we're expanding to the CUNYs in New York City as well. So SJSU has been like a trailblazer in terms of our national expansion. Yeah, thank you guys.
So there's go points for being here. There's also go points for being in Braven. Lots of go points.
Join. We'd love to meet you all this fall. It would be awesome. And I'll just put up this video in case people want to stay and learn more. If not, if you need to leave, no problem. They are not.
My dad once came home and I was a junior in high school. He was breaking down concrete at one of his clients' homes. And he walked up to me and he's like, look at my hands. Look how dry my hands are. And I wondered, I'm like, why are you showing me your hands, Dad? And he looked up at me and he said, I work with my hands so that you can work with your mind.
Para mis hijos, pues yo quiero lo mejor. que hagan una carrera en su vida para que tengan lo que ellos anhelen tener en un futuro. Como ahorita mi hija Cristal, ella quiere trabajar para comprar una casa. Para mí ese es el sueño americano que quiero lograr.
If you met freshman Crystal, you would probably think, I'm like, who is this girl? My idea then was that, I'm gonna go to school, and then once I graduate, jobs are just gonna fly at me. I had one of my good friends sit me down and say, you need to start networking like crazy right now. It was around that time that I started noticing my friends doing all these great internships. I had never heard of that before, so I panicked.
So much of the focus for first-gen students is around getting your college degree. It can be really hard to figure out where to go, what to do. Having somebody to talk to about that who can empathize and who's been through it, I think, is really helpful.
I went online and I Googled SJSU internship help. One of the first things that popped up was Braven.
Braven is a career accelerator. It's basically making sure that when you get out of college, that you are able to land a really great first job. I was a leadership coach, so I met with my fellows once a week about the work that was going on. There's so many opportunities for them to grow.
My focus was more on academics, but once I started going through the program, I realized there's other things that I also need to dedicate my focus to. There were also a lot of first-generation students like myself, so I felt that connection right away. I was like, oh cool, there's people just like me.
As a first-generation college student, Braven introduced me to so many people that led me to my current career path. I am gonna be starting at Adobe in mid-July. When I was doing my Adobe interview, they actually told me, you know what, I see that you structure your answers in a certain format and I appreciate that. So I was like, wow, thank you, Braven.
I'm always very proud of all my friends when they secure a strong job such as the one that Jamila secured, and I want to see them succeed. So when she got that job and I hadn't yet, honestly, I was a little stressed out.
I have this thing where I feel guilt even over my successes because since she's my best friend, I want her to have the same opportunities that I do, and I know she's capable of that.
I've learned a lot from Braven, but one of the things that really stood out to me was every no is a step closer to yes. I was interviewing for Box. I got this amazing call yesterday and she's like, oh, Crystal, I have some news for you. We want you to be part of our team. So yeah, I got a job.
Mañana que yo mire a Cristal caminar ahí, me voy a sentir muy orgullosa de ella. Se ha esforzado mucho, mucho para lograr llegar hasta donde está.
I know Crystal really recognizes that she's gotten a lot. I hope that she can see that she has so much to offer other people. So not just giving back for the sake of giving back, but also as an affirmation that you made it.
The network is growing. The students that are impacted by the program continue to grow, and it attracts a lot of passionate, smart, and strong individuals. I want to make myself proud, but I also have to make my parents proud. Had they not come here, I would definitely not be in the position that I am now.
And Crystal's awesome. She's actually killing it at Box. She's almost a year in, and she's now a leader in their Latinx employee resource group, and she's had a lot of opportunities to actually interact with the CEO, and he's already whoa, look at her. She's right out of college and really making our organization better. So yeah, if you want to learn more, we'd love to have you join, and then the 5 of us will be around in case you guys have any additional questions.